Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome to the deep dive, where our mission is really to extract the most important nuggets of knowledge and insight from your sources on fascinating topics, giving you a real shortcut to being truly well-informed. Today, we're not just reading a history book. We're embarking on a grand, sweeping tour through English Georgian design. This isn't just about pretty patterns,
Not at all.
It's a journey through the 18th and early 19th centuries, a period of profound and, frankly, captivating change in England. And we're going to try and connect the dots between those societal shifts and the aesthetics that define them.
Yeah, what's truly fascinating here, if you look at the bigger picture, is just how deeply intertwined these social, political, and economic shifts were with the artistic and stylistic developments we're about to explore. It's never just about aesthetics in a vacuum, is it? It's about a nation evolving, defining its identity, and expressing itself through its architecture, its meticulously crafted interiors, and the very furniture people lived with. Every curve, every motif, it tells a story about the values and aspirations of the time.
Absolutely. And to truly untangle this rich tapestry, we'll be breaking down the English Georgian period into 3 distinct chronological phases. It just makes it easier to digest, I think.
Definitely.
First, we'll delve into the early Georgian era, often associated with the refined Queen Anne style. Then we'll move to the Middle Georgian, a period utterly dominated, really, by the groundbreaking work of the iconic Thomas Chippendale.
Can't talk Georgia without Chippendale.
Exactly. And finally, we'll explore the Late Georgian period, where Robert Adam truly left his indelible classical mark. So consider this your essential guide to understanding an era that shaped so much of Western design. Let's begin our journey. Our journey begins right at the dawn of the 18th century with the early Georgian period, specifically the Queen Anne era, from 1702 to 1714. Now, Queen Anne's reign, though, relatively brief, proved to be an incredibly pivotal time.
Really set the stage.
It really did, setting the stage for major changes in England, influencing everything from politics and public life to, crucially for us, the burgeoning world of design. Her style is often described as the restrained English version of Rococo.
Right, that sort of playful French style.
Exactly, a graceful and often playful aesthetic that, as many of us know, originated in the opulent French court of Louis XV, too. But there's a lot more going on behind the scenes with Queen Anne herself that directly impacted this era.
Indeed. If we connect this to the bigger picture, Queen Anne's personal life and challenges profoundly impacted the very future of the British monarchy, and in turn, the society that would drive design.
How so?
Well, she faced immense personal heartbreak. Endured 18 pregnancies between 1683 and 1700, yet tragically, only one child, William, Duke of Gloucester, survived infancy.
18. That's staggering.
It really is. And then he too died in 1700 at the tender age of 11. This crushing loss essentially ended Anne's hopes of providing a direct Protestant successor to the throne for England, Scotland, and Ireland.
Right.
This critical lack of an heir directly led to the Act of Settlement of 1701. This act, a landmark piece of legislation, ultimately designated the Hanoverian descendants of King James I through his daughter Elizabeth as the next in line to the throne, ensuring a Protestant succession. It truly speaks to how high the stakes were, The line of succession was essentially reset.
That's a powerful point, highlighting that deep intersection of personal tragedy and national destiny. And beyond her lineage, Anne's personal convictions were equally strong, weren't they?
Oh, absolutely. She was intensely devoted to the Anglican Church, openly detesting Roman Catholics and dissenters, sympathizing instead with the high church Tories.
So, quite traditional in her views.
Very much so. But while driven by this deep religious commitment, she also harbored a strong desire to be free from the domination of political parties, striving for a more independent monarchy. Even though the influence of powerful figures like Sarah Churchill, the Duchess of Marlborough, waned after 1703.
Her famous friends.
Exactly. Her husband, the Duke of Marlborough, remained a formidable commander of the British forces during the significant War of the Spanish Succession. This era was truly defined by the burgeoning power and wealth of the aristocracy and a rising wealthy class who were increasingly setting the trends and enjoying lives of what was often described as comfort and culture.
Right, that phrase really captures it, a shift towards maybe a more refined domestic life.
Precisely. The early 18th century witnessed a remarkable increase in trading, particularly with global markets, and the subsequent development of a more sophisticated social life. This burgeoning prosperity brought about significant new wealth, not just for the old aristocracy, but also for a growing merchant class.
Okay.
This new affluence created a real, tangible demand for new symbols of wealth and, importantly, new forms of comfort within the home. The emerging Queen Anne style, with its refined elegance, was perfectly suited to satisfy this demand.
Ah, I see.
It allowed the aristocracy and the newly rich to showcase their elevated status through their meticulously designed homes and increasingly comfortable furnishings. It's also worth noting the rise of the Whigs during this time, who truly devised the moral framework and political structures that would shape much of the following era.
Moving away from absolute monarchy.
Exactly, towards a more parliamentary system, which indirectly fostered a society more focused on domesticity and refinement.
Moving from these grand shifts in power and lifestyle, let's talk about how these changes began to subtly manifest, even in something as personal as the fashion of the era. For men, for instance, the silhouette of the coat, which was a dominant feature of formal wear, became increasingly exaggerated. Imagine it. Worn quite tight on the waist, then flaring dramatically into full pleated skirts below the hips.
Creating a very distinct profile.
Very distinct, yeah. And you would see decorative braiding applied prominently along the center front closure, often running down the entire length, and also on pockets, which were often quite large and flapped, and around the cuffs. Those cuffs, by the way, remained quite large and imposing,
Right.
even as the sleeves themselves grew longer and tighter, creating an interesting contrast.
And if you look closely at the lower half, breeches, on the other hand, became notably narrower and sat closer to the leg, fastening either just above or, more commonly, just below the knee, sort of streamlining the leg line compared to earlier, baggier styles.
Okay.
And from the 1690s, those practical yet decorative elements like large ornamental buttons really came into vogue. They weren't just functional, they were statements, gracing decorative pocket flaps, cuffs, and of course, serving as the prominent front closure.
And the wigs, always a feature of the era.
Oh, and the wigs. They saw some interesting evolution. The double peak style, where the wig's height reached a central point on the head and then divided into two distinct peaks, was quite popular in the 1690s.
Sounds elaborate.
Very. This elaborate style actually echoed the female fontange, a towering lace headdress, showing a kind of cross-gender influence. But by 1710, this rather impractical and perhaps ostentatious look was largely replaced by more functional styles, like the campaign wig, where the hair was simply tied back in three neat sections.
Reflecting that subtle shift towards practicality we've observed.
Exactly. It's fascinating how even these seemingly small details in fashion start to reflect a subtle yet significant move away from pure, unbridled ostentation toward the burgeoning sense of practicality and personal comfort, even if it's still quite ornate by our modern standards. It speaks volumes about an evolving sensibility within society.
Now let's pivot to architecture, and here's a truly fascinating paradox, something that often surprises people who dive into this period. The Queen Anne architectural style, as we commonly refer to it today, with the turrets and patterned shingles.
This sort of gingerbread look.
Exactly. That actually has nothing to do with Queen Anne or the formal Renaissance architecture that was truly prevalent during her actual reign. That style we think of as Queen Anne is, in fact, primarily associated with later English architects like Richard Norman Shaw.
Much later 19th century.
Right, who effectively revived certain elements. The actual style of her reign was late Baroque. It's a classic misnomer, isn't it?
It really is. Causes endless confusion.
So what was early Georgian architecture really like then?
That's such an important clarification. The early Georgian period's actual architectural characteristics, particularly for the grand homes, were fundamentally designed to display prized possessions and openly convey status. It was less about that later decorative revival look and more about a sophisticated blend of influences.
Okay.
Imagine a mix of the inherent English love of formality combined with the grandiose style of the Italian Baroque. Think bold, dramatic scale, and then softened by the more subtle and delicate French Rococo, alongside intriguing Oriental influences brought in by increasing trade.
Interesting mix. What would you actually see?
Visually, you'd find distinct features such as patterned shingles, often charmingly referred to as fish scales due to their overlapping textured appearance. There were also prominent front-facing gables, which are also known as Dutch gables, describing that decorative, often curvilinear portion of walls between sloping roofs, adding a distinctive silhouette. And you'd see terracotta embellishments, those beautiful earthy red ceramic surface decorations used in build construction, adding warmth and detail, all topped, quite literally, by steeply pitched slate roofs, giving the houses a substantial and imposing presence.
What other details truly define these actual early Georgian homes, perhaps adding to that sense of grandeur and display?
Beyond those foundational elements, you'd frequently see imposing towers, adding verticality and a sense of fortification, even if largely symbolic. Pattern masonry was common, which is the skillful construction of structures using individual units like bricks or cut stones, laid in decorative patterns and bound meticulously by mortar.
Right.
There was also delicate spindlework ornamentation, intricate turned wood details used for decorative effect, often on porches or eaves. Houses often featured partial or full-width porches, creating welcoming yet grand entryways, and the charming bay windows, those window spaces that project outward from the main walls, forming a light-filled bay within a room.
I can picture those.
To add a touch of refined elegance, white painted balustrades. The sections beneath handrails on staircases or balconies were also common. And, quite strikingly, surging chimneys, which were often prominent, elaborately designed features, contributing significantly to the overall grandeur and the perceived solidity of the structure.
Speaking of contributing to grandeur and that sense of integrated design, we really can't talk about the architecture and furniture of this era without mentioning William Kent, can we?
Oh, absolutely not. He was a truly significant figure, serving not just as an architect, but also as an interior and, importantly, a furniture designer. His furniture truly had architectural features meant to harmonize with the doors, windows, walls, and pediments of the Palladian mansions that he worked on.
So really connected.
Completely. Think of a console table that mirrored the classical columns or cornices of the room. His pieces were predominantly made of mahogany, a rich, durable wood that was becoming increasingly popular.
We'll hear more about mahogany later, I suspect.
Definitely. And they showed strong influences of the Venetian Baroque style, characterized by a robust, often dramatic look with much carving. Ken really aimed for a complete, integrated design vision where every element from the ceiling down to the chair legs spoke the same architectural language.
Moving inside, the interior design of the Queen Anne period also saw interesting shifts, particularly with wall treatments. What was happening there?
Well, while rich, elegant fabrics like silks and velvets were still very much in vogue for the grandest homes, there was a noticeable and kind of democratizing trend. Fabric or paper became more fashionable to use on walls, moving away from plain plaster or extensive heavy wood paneling.
Okay.
And specifically, prints gained favor, allowing for a wider array of patterns and colors to be accessible to a broader, albeit still wealthy, segment of society. This marked a subtle but significant move towards broader accessibility and decoration, even as luxury materials remained prominent.
And those Oriental influences continued inside, too.
Right, and tying into the global influences we've discussed, Oriental rugs continue to remain exceptionally popular. The trade routes from the East were bringing in these incredibly intricate and richly colored carpets.
Status symbols, really.
Absolutely. They added not just warmth and comfort, but also a touch of exoticism and worldly sophistication to these burgeoning English homes. They were often placed strategically to highlight key areas of a room, becoming central elements of the decor.
It's also worth noting, though slightly forward-looking into the early 19th century, that wood paneling on walls was used extensively. While perhaps less ubiquitous in every room during Queen Anne's direct reign,
It didn't disappear.
no. The principle of using wood for warmth, texture, and a sense of permanence was a lasting design principle that would carry through the entire Georgian era, adapting to different styles. Now let's talk about the furniture itself, which truly embodies the graceful simplicity and emerging comfort that defines the Queen Anne period. The Queen Anne furniture style, often corresponding to the English Late Baroque from 1702 to 1714, is known for being distinctly simpler, lighter.
Less fussy.
Much less fussy than the more elaborate, heavily carved, and often cumbersome styles that preceded it, like the Late Stuart or earlier Baroque. It was characterized by finer proportion and a more subtle aesthetic, prioritizing elegant lines over overt ornamentation.
You can really see that.
Yeah, you can see architectural styles subtly applied to furniture, with elements like fluted pilasters, those shallow vertical grooves that mimic classical columns, and classic moldings, such as the instantly recognizable egg and dart motif, that decorative band of alternating oval and V shapes. Importantly, carving was typically limited to a singular, iconic feature, The shell motif, often placed on the knees of legs or the crests of chairbacks, serving as a delicate focal point.
Yes, and this newfound elegance was particularly evident in chairs. Curves were particularly evident in chairs, giving them that distinctive flowing feel. These pieces were celebrated for their graceful simplicity and excellent proportions, meaning they felt balanced and visually pleasing without being overly busy.
More approachable.
Definitely. A key innovation was that human scale was considered, moving away from grand, imposing pieces towards furniture that felt more comfortable and functional for daily use. The chairbacks frequently came in elegant curvilinear forms, often referred to as fiddle, vase, and parrot forms, their shapes reminiscent of those objects, adding visual interest and lightness. Carving, as you mentioned, was kept to low reliefs, meaning the carved elements didn't project far from the surface and was generally delicate, aligning with the overall simpler, more refined aesthetic.
And what about the seats and upholstery? How did comfort play a role there? Because that seems key to this period.
Comfort was indeed a growing priority. Seats typically had rounded front corners, which softened the silhouette and made them more inviting. The back of the seat would often be narrower than the front, creating that distinctive, slightly trapezoidal shape that's characteristic of the era. This era also saw the notable introduction of upholstery in the overstuffed manner, meaning cushions and padding fully covered the seat frame, creating a plush, comfortable sitting experience. These upholstered sections were often flare, being wider at the front than the back, further enhancing comfort and subtly guiding the sitter.
And the fabrics.
As for upholstery materials, glazed cotton chintz with its vibrant, often colorful floral designs was incredibly popular for a more relaxed, domestic feel. For more formal looks, you'd see luxurious options like brocade or damask, featuring intricate woven patterns.
And the legs. That's often a very defining feature for historical furniture styles. What was his signature look for Queen Anne furniture?
You're absolutely right. The leg design is critical. The cabriole leg was the chief characteristic of Queen Anne furniture, the defining thing, really.
That S-curve again?
Exactly. Imagine an animal's leg where it bows gracefully outward from the top, then gently curves inward just above the foot. This distinctive S-shaped curve, derived from animal forms, became synonymous with the style, giving pieces an elegant, fluid motion.
And the feet.
Various foot types accompanied the cabriole leg, each with its own subtle character. There was the simple, rounded pad foot, resembling a flat circular disc. The club foot was similar, but slightly larger and more substantial, like a small, rounded club. The slipper foot was elongated and flat, tapering elegantly like a slipper. And then there was the highly recognizable ball and claw foot.
Oh, yes, the classic.
Right, where a bird's talon, often an eagle or dragon, grasps a spherical ball, a motif that speaks to strength and exoticism, particularly as trade with Asia increased. Later versions of the cabriole leg would sometimes add a carved shell motif to the knee, enhancing the decorative element, and the ball and claw feet became even more common, symbolizing a certain wealth and taste.
So the cabriole leg truly defined the silhouette, giving it that unmistakable, graceful line. What else contributed to this lighter, more refined look we've been discussing? Did they change the structure at all?
They did. A significant trend that really contributed to that lighter, more elegant appearance was the gradual elimination of stretchers. Stretchers are eliminated, or if present, H-form stretchers, those horizontal supports connecting the legs, shaped like an H, were often used but gradually disappeared.
Ah, so less visual clutter underneath.
Exactly. This removal of these structural elements between the legs visually lightened the pieces considerably. Chair arms generally curved outward in a graceful scroll form, maintaining the flowing lines seen throughout the design. And in terms of wood, walnut, with its beautiful brownish-black finish and rich grain, was a primary choice. It was readily available and lent itself well to carving. Alongside it, mahogany was also becoming increasingly popular.
There it is again.
A denser, reddish-brown wood imported from the Americas, known for its durability and rich luster.
Beyond chairs, what other pieces were characteristic of the Queen Anne period, reflecting that growing emphasis on comfort and domestic life?
We saw the emergence of several truly iconic forms. The Windsor chair, for instance, became incredibly popular, often for less formal settings or even outdoors. It's a wooden chair whose back and sides consist of multiple thin, turned spindles attached to a solid, sculpted seat, with a slightly reclining back for comfort.
Very recognizable.
Then there's the incredibly inviting wingback chair, an upholstered easy chair, typically taller than its width, featuring high flanking back panels, the wings, and closed panels under the arms, creating a cozy, enveloping feel, perfect for warding off drafts in large rooms.
Still popular today.
Absolutely. The yoke-back chair was a version of the Queen Anne chair, but with a pierced splat, the central vertical back support, and a squared top rail or yoke, offering a slightly different, more geometric profile.
And for more practical pieces for organizing and home life,
Yeah.
because people needed storage and desks too, right?
Certainly. The Queen Anne's secretary was a highly popular and practical writing desk. It was typically fitted with multiple drawers, and its clever design allowed one drawer to be pulled out, and its front then lowered to provide a flat writing surface.
Very neat.
This piece truly symbolized the growing emphasis on domesticity and the rise of personal correspondence among the gentry, reflecting a more intimate private life emerging in the era. It wasn't just a desk. It was a hub for personal connection and intellectual pursuit within the home. There were also corner miter chairs, ingeniously designed to fit snugly into room corners, maximizing space.
I love her.
And for storage, the high boy, low boy combination was prominent. A two-part chest of drawers where the high boy was the taller upper chest and the low boy the smaller supporting base. These were often ornamented with carved finials, those decorative knobs on top, and of course the distinctive cabriole legs.
I could easily picture those elegant storage pieces. Any other unique tables that were characteristic of the era for tea or games?
Yes, definitely. The handkerchief table was a clever, hinged folding top piece, essentially a large drop leaf table that could expand significantly when needed for entertaining or activities. And the pie crust table had a distinct, decorative, scalloped or raised edge, resembling the crimped edge of a pie crust, hence its charming name.
Love that name.
Then there was the tea table, also often called a card table, especially for women, reflecting the growing social importance of tea rituals and card games. This versatile piece could serve as a side or serving table when its hinged sides were folded down. These tables typically featured those graceful, slightly curving cabriole legs, often ending in a club or pad foot. All these pieces, from the practical secretary to the social tea table, speak to a growing emphasis on comfort, domesticity, and social interaction within the increasingly refined Georgian home.
Okay, moving on then. As we transition into the Middle Georgian period, we encounter the reign of George I, which began in 1714 and stretched until 1727. George Louis, as he was fully named, was born in Hanover, Germany, and he became the first Hanoverian king of Great Britain. His path to the throne is quite a story in itself, isn't it? A real testament to the political machinations of the time.
It truly is a fascinating succession tale. In 1701, under the Landmark Act of Settlement, George's mother, Sophia the Palatinate, who was a granddaughter of King James I of England, was nominated as heiress to the English throne. This was conditional upon the reigning monarch William III and Queen Anne dying without direct Protestant issue.
A big if.
Exactly. The act was specifically designed to guarantee a Protestant succession, a huge concern after periods of Catholic monarchs, and Sophia was the closest Protestant relative, even though there were at least 50 Catholic relatives with technically stronger hereditary claims.
50.
Yeah. As fate would have it, Electress Sophia passed away just 2 months before Queen Anne, leading to George becoming king in August 1714. It was a throne he inherited more by political design than by immediate popularity, really.
And his reign wasn't exactly smooth sailing from the start, was it? Especially considering his German roots and lack of English fluency. That must have been a barrier.
Not at all, which
Yeah.
made his rule quite complex. The very next year, in 1715, George faced a significant challenge from the Jacobite Rebellion, a formidable uprising by supporters of the Catholic James Stuart, who, as we just mentioned, had a strong claim to the throne and a significant following, particularly in Scotland.
Right.
In response to this threat, George decisively turned to the Whigs, an influential political party, to form a stable government. This decision solidified their political dominance for the next generation, fundamentally shaping the political landscape for decades. However, George III remained largely unpopular in England throughout his life.
Why was that? Just the language barrier?
That was part of it. His well-known inability to speak English created a significant communication barrier and led to him being perceived as a distant foreign ruler. But it was also fueled by the perceived greed of his mistresses, who were often targets of public gossip and satire, and persistent scandalous rumors concerning his harsh treatment of his estranged wife, Sophia Dorothea of Celle, whom he had imprisoned.
Right, that didn't help.
No. So the interesting thing is, this raises an important question for us. How did this very specific political and social environment, characterized by a somewhat detached foreign-born monarch and a powerful pragmatic Whig government, ironically, foster a new era of design innovation that would later be so famously associated with Thomas Chippendale.
Who in many ways define English aesthetic identity.
Exactly.
That's an excellent point because despite these political complexities and a less than charismatic king, this was precisely the era where Thomas Chippendale rose to become absolutely synonymous with the best mid-18th century English mahogany furniture.
The name everyone knows.
Right. His fame, his lasting legacy, was largely established not just by his craftsmanship, but by his imposing pattern book, The Gentleman and Cabinet Maker's Director. This was revolutionary because it was the first comprehensive book of its kind, a detailed collection of designs, complete with engravings, that revolutionized furniture making by providing templates and inspiration across the country and even abroad.
It was like an instruction manual for high style.
Pretty much. His main business, a thriving workshop, was located at St. Martin's Lane in London. It's also interesting to note, and important for understanding the scope of his influence, that much of the creative work associated with the Chippendale name wasn't done by him personally, day in and day out, but rather by the incredibly talented men in his employ.
Skilled draftsmen and carvers.
Exactly, like Matthias Locke, who was responsible for the intricate carved ornament, and Henry Copeland, who meticulously prepared the material for engravers and created many of the sketches. It was a true collaborative enterprise.
And this collective, highly skilled effort contributed to what we now characterize as the distinct Chippendale style. It possesses a very noticeable masculine quality, a sense of robust strength, yet is combined with a surprising sense of comfort and remarkable sturdiness.
Interesting combination.
It is. The curves in his designs are strong and forthright, exuding confidence and presence, but at the same time, the proportions are remarkably comfortable and inviting. His pieces are undeniably sturdy and built to last without ever feeling too heavy or cumbersome, a testament to exceptional craftsmanship.
And decoration.
Carving was the main type of decoration in Chippendale's work. It was integral, not an afterthought. His favorite motifs, often rendered in deep relief, included powerful lion's paws for feet or decorative elements, graceful shells, a nod to the Rococo influence, classical acanthus leaves with their stylized, curling forms, acorns symbolizing strength and English heritage, delicate roses, fluid dolphins, and elegant symmetrical scrolls. Beyond carving, he also judiciously used inlay, where different materials are set into the surface, painting, or applied ornamentation, to add detail and richness, showcasing his versatility.
What's truly fascinating here, and what really set Chippendale apart as a genius, is how he could pull from such diverse global inspirations, bringing them all together to create something uniquely English, something that hadn't been seen before. His true brilliance lay in synthesizing three distinct contemporary styles.
Taking bits from everywhere.
Exactly. Taking elements from each and blending them into his own cohesive, iconic aesthetic. This is where it gets really interesting.
Exactly. Let's break down each of those profound influences. First, we have the Rococo, or French, influence. By this time, there was an increasing popularity of French designs in England, largely driven by refined aristocratic tastes, and even English architects were showing a genuine interest in integrating furniture design into their overall interior schemes.
Okay.
Chippendale masterfully incorporated features from this elegant style. The extensive use of carved ornamentation depicting natural forms like flowers, and a clever, almost playful combination of broken curves and straight lines in his basic forms, creating dynamic silhouettes. The graceful cabriole leg, which we saw emerge and define the Queen Anne period, also continued to be a prominent feature here, often more elaborated. Excellent examples of this French influence can be seen in the incredibly ornate ribbon-back chair, particularly from plate 17 and 18 of his director, where the backsplat mimics flowing ribbons. We also see it in his designated French chair, the familiar yoke-back chair with a Rococo flourish, elegant garden seats, and elaborate pew glasses and over-mantel mirrors designed to reflect and amplify light in grand rooms.
And his second major influence was from a completely different part of the world, wasn't it? The exoticism of the East. That feels very different from Rococo.
Yes, the Chinese influence was quite strong, a testament to expanding global trade and England's imperial ambitions. This brought in the captivating use of Oriental motifs such as pagodas, those tiered tower structures, and stylized Chinese figures for carvings, injecting a sense of exotic whimsy into English homes.
Like little scenes.
Sometimes, yeah. You also see lacquered furniture with chinoiserie, which is the European imitation or imaginative evocation of Chinese art, often featuring fantastical landscapes, figures, and architectural elements in vibrant colors on a dark, glossy background.
That lacquered look is very distinct.
Very. A distinctive element from this influence was the extensive use of fretwork and lattice works. Imagine intricate, open patterns created by piercing or carving wood, almost like a delicate screen. These were used in moldings, on panels, and most notably as intricate designs on chair backs, legs, and seat rails, creating visually light and airy pieces.
Where can we see that?
We see this in exquisite pieces like Chippendale Chinese chairs with their distinctive patterns, the English table, which features Chinese influences on its fret gallery, its fret bracket, its straight Marlborough legs, and its dome stretchers. Also, the Chinese Chippendale side table, Chinese Chippendale chest of drawers, Chinese Chippendale display cabinet, and various other Chinese Chippendale cabinets, all showcasing this captivating blend.
And finally, a very different, more traditional English inspiration, the Gothic. It seems almost at odds with the other two influences, doesn't it? How did he make that work?
It does, and that's part of Chippendale's genius, how he could seamlessly weave in such contrasting elements. The Gothic influence drew from medieval English architecture, incorporating curved details of the trefoil, a three-lobed or cloverleaf motif, and sometimes the quatrefoil, a four-lobed variant, both common in church tracery.
Okay, architectural details.
Right. You'd see straight front legs that resembled columns, echoing the structural elements of Gothic cathedrals, and intricate tracery work on the chair splats, using pointed arches and intersecting linear patterns reminiscent of stained glass window designs. This brought a more austere yet intricately detailed aesthetic. Examples of this more traditional yet refined style include the Gothic Chippendale hanging bookshelves, which might feature delicate pointed arches, the robust Gothic Chippendale bookcase, and the sophisticated Gothic Chippendale writing table.
So French, Chinese, Gothic. Quite a mix.
It's this masterful, almost audacious blending of the French Rococo's playful elegance, the exoticism of Chinese motifs, and the historical gravitas of English Gothic forms that truly set Chippendale apart and made his style so enduringly popular and distinctive.
Beyond these broad stylistic categories, Chippendale's workshop produced a truly vast array of furniture for every conceivable domestic need. Let's talk about some of his other noteworthy pieces, starting with familiar forms like the highboy and lowboy, which carried over from the Queen Anne period but with Chippendale's distinct touch. What details really define his versions?
Chippendale's highboys and lowboys exemplified his more robust and decorative approach. The highboy, for example, might feature a grand bonnet top pediment, which is a broken, scrolled, or triangular architectural element crowning the top, often with decorative finials.
Those little pointy bits on top?
Exactly, those finials. It would often have a drawer with intricate shell decoration, with a delicate drop finial hanging in the skirt, that decorative lower edge of the piece. The lowboy, as the base, would typically have a molded overhanging top, providing a rich visual edge and practical yet ornamental bail handle drawer pulls, those looped metal handles that swing freely, and of course the ever-present cabriole legs with shell carvings on the knee, showcasing that blend of form and ornamentation, and a gracefully sculpted skirt with a scallop design.
He also designed very practical and elegant pieces for daily life, didn't he? Not just the big showstoppers.
Absolutely. His genius extended to the functional. You'd find elegantly designed basin stands for washing and various candle stands that were often slender and sculptural, designed to hold candles for illumination. For the studious or literary individual, there were sophisticated reading-writing tables perfectly angled for comfort. And for hearths, beautifully crafted fire screens that not only offered protection from sparks but were also highly decorative.
More specialized pieces.
Sure, things like the grand Shaftesbury armchair and the sprawling Chippendale confidant, a large upholstered sofa designed for intimate conversation with multiple seating sections.
And for social gatherings, he had some clever, adaptable designs, didn't he? Space-saving things.
He certainly did. The pie crust tip-top table was a brilliant example of versatility and a true conversation piece. It's a pedestal table with a hinged top that could be tilted vertically and folded down when not in use, making it incredibly space-efficient, a true innovation for the time.
Very useful.
Then there's the Pembroke table, a light, versatile drop-leaf table designed for occasional use. It's believed to be named after Henry Herbert, Earl of Pembroke, a noted connoisseur and patron of the arts. This table characteristically featured two drawers and flaps on either side that could be raised by brackets on hinges, cleverly known as elbows, to increase its size for serving, dining, or games.
Ah, the elbows, right.
Other essential pieces included the Chippendale commode, a decorative chest or cabinet, various graceful Chippendale tea tables for that quintessential English ritual, and a range of elegant Chippendale writing tables, such as those historically found in grand estates in Warwickshire and Berwickshire. He even designed a specialized piece like the Chippendale Secretaire bedstead, demonstrating his breadth of work in integrating function with high style.
It really shows the sheer versatility and comprehensive approach of Chippendale's workshop, encompassing everything from grand display pieces to highly functional everyday items, all infused with his signature style. What were the dominant colors that defined the interiors of this Middle Georgian period, setting the stage for these magnificent creations?
For this era, you'd typically find a palette that reflected both a sense of warmth and a slightly more refined yet still robust aesthetic. This included light Georgian green, a soft, inviting hue that evoked natural landscapes, Georgian gold adding warmth, richness, and a sense of opulence, often seen in gilding or fabric.
A classic.
Absolutely. Stuart ivory, providing a classic, sophisticated neutral base that allowed the rich woods and carvings to stand out, and Dutch blue, offering a cooler, serene contrast, often used in less formal rooms or as accents. These colors, far from arbitrary, marked a deliberate, subtle shift towards a lighter, more harmonious aesthetic compared to the heavier Baroque palettes of earlier periods.
Setting the mood.
Exactly. They reflected a burgeoning appreciation for natural light and a desire for interiors that felt inviting rather than overtly imposing, setting a visual tone for the era's evolving social spaces.
As we transition into the Late Georgian period, we encounter the exceptionally long and profoundly tumultuous reign of George III, who ruled as king from 1760 to 1820, a really eventful time.
Immensely so.
This was a period of immense change and global upheaval for Britain, shaping its identity and its place in the world. His time on the throne was defined by significant military conflicts. On one hand, Britain impressively won a vast empire in the Seven Years' War, emerging as the dominant European power in North America and India. But as we know, the empire tragically lost its American colonies in the American War of Independence, a monumental shift that fundamentally altered the course of history for both nations. Later, Britain faced down revolutionary and Napoleonic France, a decades-long struggle, ultimately emerging as a leading European power after Napoleon's final defeat at the decisive Battle of Waterloo in 1815.
His personal life also saw significant challenges, particularly towards the end of his very long reign. During the last years of his life, from 1811 onwards, George III suffered intermittently from what was then simply called madness, now thought to be porphyria.
Right.
This debilitating illness led to his son, the future George IV, acting as regent, effectively ruling in his father's stead. Despite these immense public and personal pressures, his marriage to Charlotte Sophia of Mecklenburg-Strelitz, though initially entered into for public duty, as the king himself put it, to save a great deal of trouble, lasted for over 50 years.
Remarkable, really.
It was, due in no small part to the king's deep need for stability and security in his tumultuous life, and his wife's remarkable strength of character, which provided him a consistent anchor.
Beyond his political and personal life, what about his religious convictions? The sources highlight this as a particularly defining aspect of his reign, almost a cornerstone of his public persona.
Yes, George III was an exceptionally devout Protestant and a staunch Anglican. When his grandfather, George II, died in 1760, George III immediately ascended to the throne and resolved to uphold the English Church exactly as it had been handed down to him, without compromise.
No wiggle room there.
None. Like every new monarch since the Glorious Revolution of 1689, he publicly sealed his intent by reading a declaration. In this declaration, he explicitly repudiated transubstantiation, a central tenet of Catholic belief, and stated, quite emphatically for all to hear, that the adoration of saints and the celebration of the Roman Catholic Mass were, in his view, superstitious and idolatrous.
Strong words.
Very strong. This conviction played a significant role in his governance, his public persona, and his deep-seated desire to embody the stability of a Protestant monarchy, influencing everything from policy to the general moral tone of his era.
So with all this historical backdrop, a long, turbulent reign, imperial shifts, and a king with strong convictions, how did fashion evolve during George III's long reign? Did things loosen up a bit?
You're absolutely right. There was a notable shift towards greater informality. Both England and France, despite their political rivalries, were instrumental in setting fashion trends across Europe. While French fashions retained an inherent elegance and formality, English dress was more informal, setting a different kind of trend.
Okay.
By the 1770s, the bulky, side-pleated, collarless coat, which had been fashionable since the late 17th century, had largely been replaced by the frock coat. This garment, which we now associate with more casual wear, was originally derived from the informal country wear of English gentlemen.
So from the country to the city.
Exactly, clearly indicating a growing trend towards informality and comfort in men's dress in both countries. Another key development, particularly for women, was the increasing popularity of floating and draped styles of newly available cotton fabrics from the East. These textiles, made more accessible by expanded trade routes, allowed for a much looser, more comfortable silhouette compared to the rigid, structured garments of earlier periods, moving towards a natural, classical ideal.
And this brings us to one of the true titans of design for this period, Robert Adam. Born in 1728 and passing in 1792, he is truly England's most famous architect of the Georgian era, serving as architect for the king for many years, a testament to his prominence.
It's a giant figure.
Absolutely. Adam is widely considered the leader of classical revival, almost single-handedly ushering in a new aesthetic. He was greatly concerned with final effects. Every detail was important. He oversaw every aspect of a project, from the grand architectural shell down to the door handles and the carpets. His work became a major source of inspiration for generations, emphasizing proper scaling and the harmonious use of classical elements. We also can't forget the Adam brothers, Robert, along with his younger brother James Adam, who established a formidable reputation in London for their unique ability to organize truly large, comprehensive projects that seamlessly integrated architecture, interior design, and even furniture design, offering clients a complete, unified vision.
What's truly fascinating here, and what made Adam so revolutionary, is how he synthesized diverse historical influences into his utterly distinctive style. He wasn't just copying, he was interpreting. He was strongly influenced by classical Greek architecture, which was becoming known in Britain through groundbreaking publications like James Stewart and Nicholas Rivette's Antiquities of Athens, which meticulously documented ancient Greek ruins.
Right, seeing the real thing, documented.
Exactly. He also drew immense inspiration from the frescoes and wall paintings found in the newly excavated Roman cities of Pompeii and Herculaneum, which had been buried by Vesuvius. These sites, only recently rediscovered, provided a wealth of delicate, vibrant, decorative motifs previously unknown. And, intriguingly, Etruscan Greek black and red vases, which were being excavated and studied at the time, also fed into his aesthetic, particularly their refined linear qualities and mythological figures.
So, drawing from all these ancient sources.
But his real genius, his great achievement, was truly the synthesis of architecture, planning, and decorative elements into a cohesive whole, making his interiors, where every surface, every piece of furniture, and every decorative detail spoke the same artistic language, his most distinctive and enduring contribution. He orchestrated the entire experience.
So when we walk into an Adam-designed interior today, what are the immediate characteristics that tell us we're in an Adam room? What unique design elements did he champion that scream, Robert Adam?
You would immediately notice a sense of elegant, light classicism, a complete departure from the heavier Baroque styles. He made frequent use of distinctive geometric shapes like octagonal and hexagonal shapes, incorporating them into ceilings, floor patterns, or even furniture. And you'd see the recurring presence of winged griffins and other mythological creatures as recurring motifs, drawing directly from ancient sources.
The griffins are very Adam, aren't they?
Very much so. His signature technique involved applied plaster motifs, meticulously crafted and often very delicate, usually painted or gilded in soft, harmonious colors, adding intricate detail without the weight of deep carving. He even famously applied these distinctive decorations to Wedgwood china, particularly to center panels, which, by the way, gave rise to the term Adam stucco ceilings, implying a similar delicate applied look.
Oh, okay.
His moldings were of the simplest kind, very fine and understated, and dentils, those small rectangular block-like projections typically found in cornices, were frequently used, adding a subtle rhythm.
And in terms of materials and his overall decorative approach, how did he create that distinctive, unified look? He sounds like a control freak in the best possible way.
Well, he certainly had a vision. Stucco ornament, derived directly from classical decorative details, was widely employed throughout his interiors. It was often applied to friezes, those decorative bands just below a cornice. cornices, ceilings, and even frames for paintings. Ththese paintings could be applied directly to the plaster surface, becoming an integral part of the wall, or executed on paper or canvas, and then skillfully applied to walls and ceilings, creating integrated artistic statements.
So the art was part of the architecture.
Absolutely. Crucially, plaster walls were very common even in middle-class homes, demonstrating the versatility and widespread use of this material for decorative work. Both plaster and stucco were absolutely essential for the execution of his intricate, low-relief decorative work. Adam also had an incredibly comprehensive vision. He often designed carpets to coordinate with or echo the ceiling and wall designs, sometimes even replicating the exact patterns.
Wow, the carpet matching the ceiling.
Yes, creating a truly unified aesthetic where every element was in dialogue with the others. For floors, wood, brick, and various types of stone were frequently used, with highly polished oak reserved for grander residences. Importantly, designs for floors significantly echoed the ceiling above, reinforcing that sense of total harmony and spatial integrity, a truly holistic approach. Walls, too, were typically divided into 3 distinct sections: the dado, which is the lower part of the wall, the main field, and the cornice, the molding that runs along the top.
It truly sounds like a master orchestrator of space and detail. What colors and specific motifs truly define the Adam style beyond those structural elements?
The Adam style is immediately identified by a sophisticated and complex pastel color scheme. Think light and airy hues like soft blues, pale greens, creams, and delicate pinks. A refreshing departure from heavier palettes. Inlay, where different materials are set into a surface to create patterns, and gilding, the application of thin gold, were also prominent decorative techniques, adding subtle shimmer and richness without being ostentatious.
And motifs. Lots of classical stuff.
Definitely. For floral motifs, you'd frequently see graceful festoons, swags of fabric, or garlands of flowers draped in curves, swags, ribbons, garlands, delicate trails of vines, intricate arabesque vines, stylized flowing platforms, and elegant scrollwork, all rendered with delicate precision and often in low relief. Architectural motifs leaned heavily on Roman stucco work in light colors, giving a subtle, refined, classical feel that referenced antiquity without being heavy.
And on wood.
For wood finishes, he innovatively used veneers instead of carving, where thin slices of precious wood were glued onto a cheaper surface, allowing for smoother surfaces and intricate patterns through marquetry, a form of inlay, offering a more refined, precise alternative to heavy carving. And as we mentioned, mythological creatures like sphinxes, those winged lions with human heads, and winged griffins were commonly used as motifs, adding a touch of classical whimsy and intellectual depth.
To truly understand the grandeur and meticulous detail of Adam's work, let's walk through some of his most notable residences, drawing from the sources you provided. Can you take us on a tour, perhaps starting with Crown Court? I'm particularly interested in how these specific examples bring his overall philosophy to life.
Absolutely. These examples really bring his ideas into sharp focus. Crown Court Tapestry Room, designed in 1763, is a stunning example of Adam's vigorous early style, showcasing his commitment to integrated design from the outset. The plaster ceiling itself is a masterpiece, featuring ornamental wheel molding and garlanded trophies, demonstrating his meticulous attention to detail even at this early stage.
And the tapestries.
The tapestry hangings are particularly significant as they were specially commissioned from Jacques Nielsen's Royal Gobelins manufactory in Paris. These weren't just random tapestries. They portray scenes from classical myths symbolizing the elements, all based on designs by the renowned French artist François Boucher. The gilded frames of the seat furniture in the room were also meticulously crafted by prominent London cabinet makers John Mayhew and William Ince in 1769, ensuring every element was cohesive. The room also features elegant Ionic pilasters, those flattened decorative columns, and a grand fireplace, all contributing to its cohesive design. Adam wasn't just designing a room, he was creating an entire artistic environment, a classical narrative.
And what about Sion House? That's another incredibly iconic Adam project, isn't it? Known for its dramatic and varied interiors.
Indeed, Sion House offers contrasting yet equally impressive interiors, demonstrating Adam's versatility. The anteroom there is famous for its deep, vivid colors, a deliberate and striking contrast to the more gentle yellow ochre of the adjacent Great Hall, designed to create a dramatic transition. It's truly dominated by 12 imposing Ionic columns crafted from green scagliola, that clever plasterwork mixed with pigments and marble dust designed to convincingly imitate highly polished marble.
Looks like the real thing, but isn't.
Exactly, giving the appearance of rich veined stone. These columns are topped with gilded Ionic capitals and support a gilded sculpture entablature, that elaborate, load-bearing horizontal section resting on the columns, all giving the room a striking, almost perfect square effect. The room also features two exquisite bronze statues by Valadier, one of Silenus with the infant Dionysus and another of Antininus, reinforcing the classical theme. As you look around, you'll observe intricate rosette medallion patterns, elegant garland motifs, fasces, bundles of rods, often with an axe, symbolizing authority, delicate stucco works, extensive gilding, Greek sculpture, and Anthemian dentils. Those decorative, radiating fan-like motifs, often alternating with rectangular blocks, all meticulously integrated.
So much detail.
Adam wasn't just using Ionic columns. He was deliberately manipulating light and color to evoke specific emotional responses and guide the visitor's experience through sequential spaces, a true architectural narrative.
And the famous Long Gallery at Sion, that's often highlighted for its cleverness. Isn't there something about a bookcase?
Yes, the Long Gallery at Sion House, measuring an impressive 136 feet, was specifically planned by Adam for the particular delight of the ladies, intended for promenading and social interaction. Upon entering, visitors would encounter a remarkable detail: a false bookcase on the right, which ingeniously conceals a secret door leading directly to the south lawn.
Brilliant.
It's a wonderful example of his wit and attention to both aesthetics and function. The gallery itself is highlighted by a decorative turret at one end and features 20 Corinthian pilasters, which are gilded and painted in his signature light palette. These are adorned with delicate, classical, trailing stucco moldings, notably replacing the heavier, more imposing Jacobean style that preceded them. The entire space is further enhanced by exquisite parge work, which is a highly decorative form of plasterwork, often molded into intricate patterns or even scenes, adding a beautiful sculptural quality to the surfaces. It truly exemplifies his transition to a lighter, more refined classicism.
Moving on to Kettleston, what can you tell us about the marble hall and the saloon there? They sound incredibly grand just from the names.
Oh, they are. At Kettleston, the Marble Hall is a quintessential neoclassical interior designed by Adam to be just as impressive as the exterior, directly evoking the open courtyard or atrium of a Roman villa. It features 20 imposing fluted alabaster columns with vertical grooves carved into them, made from a translucent, often white stone that glows with light, topped with Corinthian capitals, those highly ornate, leaf-adorned capitals.
Sounds amazing.
These columns support a heavily decorated, high-coved cornice, a broad, concave molding at the top of the wall that curves to meet the ceiling. Niches in the walls contain classical statuary with grisaille panels. Those monochromatic paintings, usually in shades of gray, made to look like sculpture depicting classical scenes above them. The floor is beautifully inlaid with intricate patterns, and the ceiling is vaulted, also adorned with fine stucco work. It's a breathtaking space.
And the saloon, with its towering dome, that sounds like a dramatic focal point.
The saloon at Kettleston is truly grand and theatrical. Contained behind the triumphal arch of the south front, it rises the full height of the house, an astounding 62 feet to the top of its dome. It's skylit through a glass oculus, a large circular opening at the apex of the dome, letting in natural light from above, and was completed in 1763, primarily designed as a sculpture gallery.
A room built for art.
Exactly. The decorative theme is based on the temples of the Roman Forum, but masterfully integrated with Adam's modern inventions. For instance, 4 massive apse-like recesses cunningly conceal stoges, cleverly disguised as pedestals for classical urns. The double doors entering the room have heavy pediments, those triangular or curved architectural elements above a door or window, supported by scagliola columns. At the second floor height, more grisaille panels depict classical scenes. The dome itself features octagonal coffers, essentially a ceiling made up of recessed, 8-sided panels, almost like a beautifully geometric honeycomb pattern, which added incredible depth and grandeur. It's a space designed to impress and delight.
Any other specific residences that highlight Adam's unique contributions to decoration and integrated design? Maybe something slightly different.
Absolutely. Home House, designed by Robert Adam in 1777 in Marylebone, features what many consider his most distinctive contribution to decoration: the innovative use of small-scale inlaid scagliola for its distinctive marble, meaning tiny, intricate pieces of the polished plaster imitating marble were set into surfaces, creating incredibly detailed patterns.
Miniature work.
Precisely. Then there's Austerley Park House, which Adam himself described as a beautiful villa belonging to Lord Tanfield, the friend of every elegant art and useful science, underscoring his refined taste. Remodeled by Adam in the 1760s and 1770s, it sits in 74 acres of exquisite gardens and woodland with views towards London and houses a renowned painting collection, a perfect setting for his comprehensive design.
And within Austerley Park House, what specific rooms or features truly stand out, exemplifying Adam's genius?
The entrance hall at Austerley Park is particularly notable for its antique marble statues in niches, large vases on pedestals, and elaborate wall and ceiling panels influenced by themes from the classical world, immediately setting a tone of classical grandeur. The Etruscan dressing room is a marvel of detailed wall and ceiling designs, showcasing Adam's ability to create intensely decorative yet still light and refined private spaces.
In the dressing room.
Oh, yes. You also have the grandeur of the dining room, but it's arguably the grand staircase that really captures the imagination, featuring Adam's magnificent smoke bell lanterns, those large bell-shaped glass shades used to capture smoke from oil lamps, complete with huge tassels and a clever touch of color. A ruby band and emerald glass designed specifically to make everything pop and add visual excitement. The wrought iron balustrade pattern is also identical to one found in another of his designs, showcasing his penchant for repeating successful motifs. We also see beautifully designed bedroom spaces that carried his aesthetic into the most private realms. Finally, Kenwood House is another important example, specifically its library interior and rear facade details, which perfectly showcase his refined aesthetic and careful integration of architecture with the natural landscape.
So, as we wrap up the late Georgian period, it's clear that Robert Adam was a monumental figure whose influence extended across architecture and interior design. But he wasn't alone in shaping the furniture of the era. This period also saw the rise of two other pivotal furniture designers, George Hepplewhite and Thomas Sheraton. How do their styles differentiate from Adam's and from each other, showing that continued evolution in design?
They certainly built on the classical revival that Adam spearheaded, but each brought their own distinct interpretation, leading to a fascinating diversification of style. Robert Adams' furniture, for instance, typically featured slender, fluted legs, those with vertical grooves with spade feet, which are tapered square feet resembling the head of a spade. While he sometimes used cabriolet legs, he preferred to use straight, tapered legs for a more restrained architectural look.
More linear.
Yes. The graceful curve predominated in his designs, but carving was used sparingly and was dainty, often featuring classical motifs like the Prince of Wales feathers, delicate rosettes, graceful ferns, hanging husks, and classical urns. He was instrumental in reviving marquetry as a decoration technique, where different colored woods are inlaid to create intricate patterns, offering a smoother, more subtle alternative to heavy carving. He also frequently incorporated figural paintings executed en grisaille, meaning paintings done in various tints and shades of gray, designed to mimic relief sculpture. Ormolu mounts, gilded bronze or brass decorative embellishments, and extensive gilding were also common. His pieces could sometimes be massive, but always adorned with low-relief Greek and Roman motifs, creating grandeur without overwhelming. He notably introduced oval and shield-back chairs, breaking from previous rectangular forms, used center motifs on friezes with fluting and pateres, circular or oval-shaped medallions, and designed the rounded front commode, a chest of drawers with a curved front. He's also widely credited with introducing pedestals to the side table, which effectively marked the start of the modern sideboard, and designed lower-back chairs, often introducing the elegant lyre shape for the backsplat, sometimes with decorative metal rods. Examples include his iconic chair wheel or Prince of Shieldback chair, the elegant sideboard, Adam side table, and Adam console table.
And Hepplewhite. What was his signature style, particularly for chairs? He's famous for a specific chair back, right?
Yes, George Hepplewhite is probably best known for his distinctive shieldback chair, a highly popular and influential design where the chair back is shaped like a decorative shield, often with intricate pierced designs within. In America, his style is even considered a sub-style of the Federal period, highlighting its widespread impact.
Wow.
His furniture was fundamentally defined by slender proportions, giving an airy lightness, extreme grace and elegance, and an enriched color palette, often achieved through veneers and subtle painting. His legs were always straight and slender, whether round or square, and sometimes tapering elegantly, contributing to his light aesthetic. His major contributions are widely understood to be his innovative chairback forms and his emphasis on highly refined, delicate inlay and painted decoration. His chair designs included distinct shapes like the interlaced heartback, where heart shapes intertwine, the simpler hoopback, the slightly humped camelback, and numerous variations of the elegant shield forms, all contributing to his characteristic elegance and refined silhouette.
And finally, Thomas Sheraton, who came a bit later in the period, often seen as the culmination of the neoclassical movement in furniture. What was his defining characteristic?
Thomas Sheraton is often and accurately called the apostle of the straight line, which immediately tells you about his aesthetic preference and his departure from the gentle curves of Adam and Hepplewhite.
Very geometric then.
Yes. His furniture typically featured turned or reeded tapering legs with spadefoot, meaning the legs were either shaped on a lathe with decorative rings or grooves, or had parallel lines carved into them, then tapering to that distinctive spadefoot. He strongly favored rectangular chairbacks with splats, the central vertical back support, that were often intricately designed, but always within a rigid rectilinear frame. Examples of his motifs include the raised splat, the classical urn, and elegant swag designs, all contributing to his refined linear style. These three designers, Adam, Hepplewhite, and Sheraton, really showed the incredible evolution of the neoclassical aesthetic into the early 19th century, moving from Adam's architectural integration to Hepplewhite's delicate elegance, and finally to Sheraton's precise linear forms.
So after this incredible journey through the Georgian period, from its architectural grandeur to its intricate furniture, what were the colors that truly defined this late Georgian period, the era of Adam, Hepplewhite, and Sheraton? What kind of atmosphere would these colors create in a home?
The palette for the late Georgian period shifted even further towards delicate and sophisticated hues, perfectly complementing the refined elegance and classical restraint of the furniture and architecture. You'd commonly find British gold, a slightly more muted and elegant gold than earlier, adding subtle richness, light Adam green, a subtle, ethereal green directly inspired by Adam's own interiors, evoking nature and classical antiquity.
Named after the man himself?
Pretty much. Regency white, which provided a crisp, clean backdrop that made classical motifs pop, and jasper yellow, offering a warm, inviting, yet still refined tone. These colors were chosen to create interiors that felt light, airy, harmonious, and intellectually engaging, reflecting a preference for elegance and subtlety over overt opulence. They were the perfect backdrop for spaces designed to showcase art, sculpture, and refined living.
So what does this all mean for us today when you step back and look at it? We've just journeyed through the entire English Georgian period, a remarkable span of time that saw profound shifts in design. We began with Queen Anne's subtle elegance, which brought a new focus on comfort and domesticity. We then moved through Chippendale's extraordinary ability to synthesize diverse global inspirations, from French Rococo to Chinese chinoiserie and even English Gothic, into something uniquely and robustly English. And finally, we explored Robert Adams' classical grandeur and his groundbreaking holistic design vision, where every element of a room, from ceiling to carpet, worked in perfect harmony. It's been a rapid yet incredibly rich evolution, hasn't it?
It really has, reflecting deep societal changes and demonstrating how design is never static, but always adapting and responding to its environment.
Right.
Indeed. What we've seen is how the evolution of these styles is intrinsically linked to broader ideas of national identity, shifting social norms, and the continuous dialogue between innovation and tradition in design. From the Hanoverian succession shaping the political landscape to burgeoning wealth demanding new expressions of status and comfort, design was always adapting, mirroring the changes in society itself.
It really underscores how design isn't just about looks.
Exactly. It truly emphasizes how these historical deep dives inform our understanding of design today. Many of these elements, from the graceful cabriole leg that still appears in contemporary furniture, to the intricate classical motifs that resonate in modern architecture, to the very idea of a suite of furniture designed to a common theme, continue to influence contemporary aesthetics in subtle and not-so-subtle ways. They are not just historical footnotes, they are enduring principles.
That's true. You still see them everywhere.
Which raises an important question for us now. How might today's rapid cultural exchange, global interconnectedness, and astonishing technological innovation be shaping future design histories? Perhaps are we mirroring the eclectic and transformative influences we saw throughout the Georgian period in our own contemporary design landscape, creating a new, unforeseen synthesis?
A truly thought-provoking question for our times, especially given how quickly trends and technologies evolve now. As you look around your own home or neighborhood, or even just browse furniture online, can you spot any echoes of Queen Anne's refined curves, Chippendale's global eclecticism, or Adam's classical precision? The past is always closer than we think, especially in the enduring beauty and principles of design. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.